Welcome back to PlayDarts and thanks again for joining me. Time to do some practice. And here is the first number of the day, number 128. So what's the first start in the golden 44 number? Often you've seen me or I encourage people to throw for treble 20 where possible, then treble 19. But there's a few numbers where treble 18 makes sense, and this is one of them. So I would throw treble 18 for my first start and it leaves 74. Now if you want a formula, it would be 46. Now I don't really recommend you don't really need this because there's not that many times you'll throw a treble 18 for your first start, okay? So you just remember it. You just like parrot fashion, say it out loud. 128 is treble 18 and it leaves 74. Now there's a nice way to take out 74 on the 18s, which is how I do it, but I think this first example is going probably the most common way. So what is a second dart? The most common way of taking out 74 is treble 14. It's actually a first dart indicator, if you know what I mean by that. If you don't, I'll be doing more videos on that. And we'll state your double. Treble 14, double 16. That's most people will go that way, okay? Now what is a misrule on that? So the misrule is what will happen if you well, the misrule is when we're going for a treble, we will hit the big number more times than we hit treble. In this case, we're going for treble 14. So we're going to hit the 14 more times than we hit the treble 14. Of course, that ratio might change as you get more proficient with what you do, but you need to put it into your practice routine. So it would leave 60. Okay, just add 14 onto 60 and you've got your 74 if you need to do your maths. Okay, so and 60 is a single 20, double 20. Now just think about when you're doing that. I always recommend aim for treble 20. Then just change that dart trajectory and hopefully you'll miss that treble 20, because we have that muscle memory groove, don't we? When we throw in at that 20 segment, we're mostly going for that treble 20 when we're scoring, right? We want to get the big scores. So when you want a single 20, when you're in a game, Sod's Law come into play and you will get that treble 20, okay? So just aim. You don't want that, you bust out. So you want that single 20, aim for your treble 20 and just hopefully and push through and just aim a little higher or push through a little higher on that single number. Anyway, mumbling. Okay, so any alternate finishes? Yep, so let's see. So 74, this is the way I like to go. So this is why I remember 128 is treble 18, is because if I hit it, it leaves 74, and that's how I take out 74, treble 18, double 10. I like the right side of the board, okay? Hitting the big 18 would leave 56. Always try and do the misrule on most of these numbers. It will make sense. Now, why isn't there any more alternate finishes here? Because 18s is the best way to go. I think it's universally known, the best way to go when you've got 3 darts for 128, okay? Because if you go for treble 20, and the misrule comes into play and you miss the treble 20, hit the big 20, take 20 off 128, you're left with 108, and you can't get out in 2 darts with 108. It's not a 2 dart finish, right? It's not a golden 44 number. Okay, I'll get that one in. Okay, and also 19s, if you're going the 19s route, and it's fine if you hit the trebles, always fine, you can go anywhere you want if you know you can hit that treble, because it will always take you further down and probably get you a finish on most shots, right? But if you hit the big 19 in this case, it would leave 109, and 109 is not on the 2 dart finish. It's not a 2 dart finish, not on the golden 44 list. But if you miss the treble 18, in this case we're going for this treble 18, right? Let's just change my color. It's all yellow. If we're going for this treble 18 and we miss treble 18, hit the big 18, hopefully, it would leave 110. Okay, and 110 is on the 2 dart finish. It is a golden 44 number. That's treble 20 for bullseye. Okay, so that's why we go the 18s on this one, because this misrule, as you'll find, if you're starting off, these videos are obviously for people who are starting this fantastic game of darts, very hard game of darts, but the misrule, so missing the treble, hitting the big number, will often determine which way you go. It does for me, it does for other people, and I'm sure you get the idea. It's a very powerful rule to be aware of and to practice, okay? But that is number 128. on to the next number of 123. So the first start on the golden 44 number. So we're going to throw treble 19 here. It's a much better number than treble 20, which I'll show you very shortly. But when we throw in treble 19 for any 3-digit number, instead of adding 40 on, we add 43 on, okay? But it's quite a good rule of thumb, even though this number is quite easy to see, 43 onto 23, because you're adding this number onto the last 2 digits, of course. But just if you struggle, just add 40 on. So okay, so 63, and of course you've got to add that 3 more on. It's easy to do in your head, in your mental Rolodex, and you get treble 19. You get treble 19. You get 69 after hitting treble 19. So it's 1, 2, 3 is treble 19, leaving 69. Now, what is the second dart? So we've got 69. How do we take it out? If you've got 2 darts on 69, there's only one way you should go. That's treble 19 for, and you state your double for double 6. Okay. Because why is that? Because this misrule determines that. Again, we miss the treble, hit the big number, so we miss the treble 19 in this case, hit the big 19, and we are left with 50. Okay, this is what happens in all these 60 numbers. We go, sometimes some of these 60 numbers finishes on the 60 numbers where we're going for an odd number double, but we go that way because if we miss the treble, it always leaves 50, and these are the ways to take out 50. You can go straight for the bullseye if you're a rock star, or if your heat is on and you need to do it. But if you've got some time, or you're ahead of your opponent rather, these are the ways to take out 50 that I know. Single 18 for double 16, treble 10 for double 10, because if you miss the treble 10, hit the big 10, it leaves 40. So you go to the top of the board, one of my favourite doubles, if not my favourite. Or single 14 for double 18. So that kind of covers all of these, the ways to take out 50. And of course, I've been really highlighting these in the last few videos, but if you want to play the game, these are the scores you can do. This is kind of in this style of a top trumps game. And by the way, these slides will be in the description box below, as this series, just so you can print them out, and it can just, at the very least, if you don't want to play like a game of top trumps, then you can just basically use them as practice cards if you want to. Okay, no pressure. Any alternate finishes? So yes, 69. So the other way to take out 69 would be treble 15 double 12. That's the only way I can think about doing it. I'm sure there's another way, it's just eluding me right now, but treble 15 double 12, hit the big 15, will leave 54, and then of course get a point for that. Now, why don't we go for another big treble for 1, 2, 3? Well, let's pretend we do. Okay, so why aren't we going for treble 20, our home base? Why aren't we going for that? Because fine if you hit it, it's always good if you hit it, but again, what's going to happen mostly, this misrule will come into play. We will miss that treble, hit the big number. So going for treble 20 on 1, 2, 3, missing it, hitting the big 20 would leave 103. That is not a 2 dart finish, so you'll have 2 darts left and you'll only be able to set up your shot. And in this very tough game of darts, you want to use the numbers to the best of your knowledge. Use the dartboard. It offers us ways to help us, and this is why, you know, I'm giving these lessons just to help you out here. And you certainly want to, in this number 1, 2, 3, you want to go for your treble 19, not treble 20, or else you might end up with 103, and you don't want that. Okay, so that covers this number, I believe. And to the last number of the day, number 116. How do we approach this? So what's the first start on the golden 44 number? We're going to go the treble 19s route here, because I think it adds some advantages. So we add 43 on to the last 2 digits when we throw in treble 19 for any of these 3-digit numbers. But if it's hard for you to see that, if you're not a numbers person, just add 40 on to 16, so 56, and just know you've got to add that extra 3 more on because this is treble 19. That's the rule. So it's treble 19 leaving 59. Now, what is the second dart? Just how do you take out 59 essentially? So single 19, state your double for double 20. All right. Now, what's the miss rule? So missing the treble on and hitting the big number. Well, we're on single, going for a single 19, so there's no treble to miss, so there's no miss rule on this one. Now let's look for any alternate finishes. So you can go the 20s route. It's not a bad way to do it. If you just don't like the 19s, why not, you know? And the formula for that is, if you don't know, if you need a little help in hand with these formulas or with these checkouts, these formulas can help you. Just add the rule of 40. So add 40 onto 16, 56, the easiest formula in the world to implement, and on one of our most common trebles we go for those. That's why it's brilliant. Okay, and then 56, how do you take out 56? Single 16 for double 20, and you can go a single 20 for double 18. Those are the ways. Now, what's a nice advantage is when we're going for the 19s, treble 19 is right next door to treble 3, and it's very easy to hit that when you're going for that. And if you do that, and so treble 3 is 9, take 9 off 116 leaves 107, and that's still a nice 2-dart finish. You're not having to change your dart trajectory too much, because the 2-dart for 107 is treble 19, because that's 57, and you need another 50 to make it 107, so bullseye. So that's an advantage of going the 19s way. So that's number 116. Okay, thanks so much for watching. These were the last 3 finishes that we can finish with 3 darts. The very next video is the final video in this chapter, and we're going to cover the bogey numbers, tips of how to remember them, how to work out if they are bogey numbers really quickly and easily, and also how do you take them out, because you might land on 159 and you're still going to, or even though you can't take it out with 3 darts, but how do you set it up? Okay, you still need to know how to go about it. Anyway, and that's coming next. Thanks again for watching. Take care for now.